You're locked into Inception Radio Network, Superior, Wisconsin.
And now your host of California MUFON Radio, Lorien Fenton.
Welcome, everyone, to the California MUFON Radio Show. I'm your host, Lorien Fenton. Really happy to have you all with me here tonight. I have an amazing guest here on IRN, the home of the most amazing app. I hope you guys are getting it. His name is Peter Kling, and he has written a book called Letters to Earth, You Can Survive Armageddon. But that's not just all Peter's about. Peter's had an amazing life, and he's got all kinds of things going on, and we'll get to Peter here in a few minutes. But before we do, I want to tell you all about upcoming events. Of course, that's what I do here every Wednesday. You guys are like, oh no, she's going to do it again. Well, here we are. We've got MUFON Symposium coming up now. I don't know what to do. I've got to go to the MUFON Symposium this year, folks, and I've got to go for many reasons. And most of the reasons are that I want to represent you there, and I want to do some things at the MUFON Symposium that I've never done before. And I can't tell you about it because it's all kind of, just trying to shake the tail of MUFON and get them to respond to some of my requests. And I have several requests, and like I said, I can't really go into all the details. They're nothing huge, but they're just little things that I think MUFON should be doing. So I want to be able to take them to the MUFON Symposium and then plop them down in the middle of one of their board meetings and say, look, this is what I think needs to be happening here, and this is the way to fix it, and offer them solutions. So they're not just getting a complaint, they're actually getting solutions to the complaint. So this is what I want to do for all you out there who are MUFON members and maybe not MUFON members. And like I said last week, if you have a grievance about MUFON, if you have something that you want to see changed within MUFON, and you're not getting any response from MUFON about it, go ahead and email me. You can email me through the network. I'm not sure how they do it, but they do it. You just send an email to the network here at IRN, or you can send it to me at Lorien at MUFONMarinSonoma.com. That's my website for my MUFON group. It's MUFONMarinSonoma.com. You can always email me through there. Okay, so let me know if there's anything you want talked about at the MUFON Symposium when I make my appearance. Which I'm sure they've already got wind of, and they're probably going to be ditching me through the whole. It'll be like one of those Keystone Cops movies where Lorien's chasing the cops with the billy clubs, and then the billy club guys turn around and chase her, and we'll be running around the hotel. It'll be quite hysterical. So yeah, that's probably what it's going to turn into. But hey, I'm doing the best I can, folks. I really think that there's some things that need to be addressed, and I want to do it. So that is where I'm at this point, and what it's leading me to is I really need some cashola to get to the conference this year. It's quite spendy, and it's way out of my budget. And so I know I do this every time there's a conference, and I know I'm going to be there broadcasting live again, just like I do at International UFO Congress. And I really do need your help, folks. Yeah, my situation right now is pretty precarious, and I do want to make sure I make it to this conference. It's very important to me to be there this year. So I've decided to launch another Teespring t-shirt and hoodie campaign. And I will be doing that this week, and there will be a banner up on the IRN website announcing the hoodies and the t-shirts are for sale for the California MUFON Radio Show. And I hope you guys can help me out. I'm not going to set it very high this time. I'm only going to set it around 40 or 50 t-shirts to be sold, just so I make enough money to pay for some hotel and some gas money down there. And it would really, really help me out. So I hope all you guys out there got your $20 or so. I'm not going to make them very high in price. And just try to buy a t-shirt and help out the cause, because it's really important that I be there this year. And I want to make sure that you guys are represented properly and that I actually get something accomplished at this MUFON Symposium. So they're forewarned. I'm sure that tomorrow morning, Jan Harzen's going to hear this. So hi, Jan. And I hope that all of you guys out there will give me a boost and really help me get to this conference. You can also donate to me on my totally unfinished and horribly built website. It's lorienfenton.com. I have done nothing to it. You know, I don't think you guys know this, but I've been a webmaster since 1990. Gosh, I think 2 or 3. That's when I first started doing HTML programming. And I started working with a couple of companies where I was their, webmaster. But back then, there really wasn't much to it, because all it was HTML and, a little bit of script code for the server. And that's about it. But now it's just gotten insane. What I do now is I work in WordPress. And I love WordPress. I've been a WordPress junkie since 2005. So, yeah, it's an amazing program. And I actually had a meetup for WordPress for several years. I taught WordPress to people. I build WordPress websites for people, and I just love WordPress. I'm like I said, I'm a WordPress junkie. I don't even know how to describe it. Every time I get a client, I say, "Oh yeah, we're going to do it in WordPress," and they're like, "What in the heck is WordPress?" And I have to explain it all to them, and then they're all happy. So yeah. So anyhow, gosh, what was my point to all that? My point was my website is like the cobbler's kids who have no shoes. I'm like the webmaster that doesn't have a website. I mean, I put it up, but I haven't put anything on it. I haven't changed. I've done nothing. There's a donate button on there, and that's it. So if you guys want to donate, go ahead. Go to lorienfenton.com and donate there. And make sure I get to this darn conference, as they say. So thank you, everyone. I really appreciate it. And also, I wanted to mention UFOCon, the Experiencer event's coming up. And I don't even know what to say to you guys. Absolutely phenomenal. I've been talking to Nadine Lalich and Barbara Lamb, and I have a guy that he's kind of balking at presenting at the event now, but I hope I can bring him around to do this, because tell you what, there's no way to describe what this guy has gone through. He's an experiencer that I've known about here in Petaluma, California, right down the street from the senior center where my MUFON group meets. There's a guy who's been having experiences for his whole life. He's 55 years old. They started when he was 4, and they're basically parking UFOs right down the street for 50 years at this guy's house. And I met him about 2 or 3 years ago, and he presented at my MUFON group. But since then, even more crazy stuff has been going on with him. And I'm trying to get him to present at the Experiencer event. He is like, wait, if he makes it, you guys are going to be so blown away. You know what's interesting about him? He's not a professional presenter, so it's really scary for him, and I understand that, but that's what my conference is all about. My conference is all about bringing people out on stage for the first time ever, discussing what has been happening to them, because I absolutely, not always, but I absolutely believe that people need to get out and tell their stories. I mean, this is what it's all about for me, folks. I don't know about you, but I think it's time that we all start talking about what's going on with us. And, I'm not going to say to people, no, you can't present at my conference because you're not a professional presenter in the UFO community. I mean, what is that? I thought these UFO conferences were to bring people out on stage that have, and in front of people that are extremely interested in what they've got to say so they could explain their truth. I thought that's what it was all about. I didn't realize you had to be a professional presenter and be all polished and in a suit and get up there with your PowerPoint presentation and all that. I mean, he is going to have a PowerPoint presentation, but that's only because he knows how to use PowerPoint. But, it's like, if he just got up there and showed and passed out his Polaroids, I mean, I'd be thrilled. I mean, this guy has some amazing information. So, but for me, that's what it's all about. It's not that, oh boy, now I'm going to start. Here I go. I always lose money at my conferences. And like I said a few weeks ago, people come up to me all the time and say, why do you bother doing this? And you lose money and you know what? To me, it's not about making the money. That's not why I do this. I do this because it's time that the truth get out there and people accept it. And it really bothers me that people come up to me and tell me I'm a bad business person. And I think to myself, what do they even know about business? I've been running businesses. Anyhow, we're not going into all that, but I've been a business person for a very long time. I've run companies. I've done all kinds of things. I've been directors of nonprofits. I've done PR and marketing. I'm an award-winning designer. I never really talk about that. I'm a graphic designer, award-winning in advertising. I mean, I've done things, I'm 58 years old. I haven't done little things. I've done big things my entire life. And I know this is a losing proposition. You don't have to tell me. I know that. I'm not that stupid. Anyhow, I laugh because they go, oh, you're losing money. You shouldn't be doing it. I'm like, really? I know that. This is a calling. It has absolutely nothing to do with money. And if I could just get everybody to realize that, and that if they could just save up their $80 or $100 to get to these events, they would learn something. That's what this is. It's a learning process. These conferences are an educational process. At the last conference I had, I got up on stage and I told everybody, I said, I'm childless. You guys are my college education for my children. This is what I do. I spend all my money and lose money on you guys out there trying to educate you about what is going on out there in the world. And I just say, okay, instead of one kid going to college, I've got, 300. And that's basically what it's all about. So, I'm not saying I don't need to make some money off the conference. That would be nice. But, honestly, it's really all about getting people up on stage that have never been seen before. And, I know what my point was. My point was this. They tell me I'm a bad business person because I don't bring the big names in. And then I say to them, well, who are the big names? And why do I have to bring the same people every conference? I mean, it blows my mind that some of these people go to every single conference. And I just think to myself, where are all the new people? That scares me. It's like they've been aced out. They're never given a chance. I give people a chance. I give people that nobody knows a chance to be at my conferences. And then people walk away from my conferences, and I'm not patting myself on my back, folks. I'm telling you the truth. They walk away from my conferences and they go, oh my God, I've never even knew this was going on. How come the big people aren't telling this? And I say, because the big people got to make a buck. That's what it's all about for them now. It's all about the money. It's not about what the truth is. It's about the money. So anyhow, I just hope you guys all understand that. I hope you go to UFOCon, CAUFOCon.com, and I do hope you can attend our event because it's going to be spectacular. You're going to learn things at this conference that you've never heard before, and you're going to just be like, whoa, what is going on out there? And you will become part of what I call the elite group of people who understand what the real value of a conference of this caliber is about. It's about your education. It's not about the money. It's not about, all the people, getting their books sold and all that, which is nice too. I mean, they've got to make a buck for being there, but it's really about you guys getting an education from these people who've had extraordinary, and I'm talking about extraordinary experiences. When you hear my buddy Mike Davis talk from Petaluma, California, you're going to be blown away. The guy's amazing. Anyhow, let's hope he can do it. He's still contemplating, but if I don't get him, I will get somebody else equally as extraordinary. I really promise you all that. Okay, enough about my crazy life in existence. Okay, Peter, are you with me?
All the way.
You guys, I want to introduce you to Peter Kling. He's an amazing guy. You've got to visit his website. It's peterkling.com, just like it sounds, KLING.com. He has written a book called Letters to Earth, You Can Survive Armageddon. And Peter, so you know what? I had you on a show a couple weeks ago, and we were talking a lot about Armageddon in the book and 2012 and, all these things that were going on that kind of have come to pass but really didn't. And then I thought I'd bring you on the show tonight to talk a little bit more about your experience around UFOs, aliens, or any type of that kind of related to your book. So do you have any UFO experiences or alien kind of experiences that do relate to your book?
The whole book is really, our whole life is really about aliens and UFOs.
It is, isn't it? Because it's all consciousness, and we create them, right?
Well, it's not so much we create them is wow, how do I address this one? Well, let's look at it from a personal viewpoint, first of all, okay?
Sure.
Let's look at our own consciousness. Our consciousness is divided into 4 parts: beta, alpha, theta, and delta.
Correct.
Beta and alpha, we are pretty much in the physical world. We know we're in the physical world. However, when you get into theta and delta, our consciousness is no longer confined by the 3-dimensional world which our physical body is confined in. And therein we start to understand the birth of our soul and our spiritual consciousness. Now, we're not going to go down some religious path. I have no use for religion, but I do have a lot of use for the information that has been left for us in antiquity, especially when it comes to the Bible. And a lot of people are going, oh no, he's going to talk about the Bible. You want to talk about the Sumerian text? First, we'll talk about the Sumerian text, and this is why I have no use for religion. You see, the Sumerian texts are about 1,000 years older than the Bible is, and the Sumerian texts basically say that the Anunnaki came to Earth, Anunnaki literally meaning those whom from heaven came, and they gave the humans there, the main one being Nimrod. He only gets about a short paragraph, not much more than a sentence or two in Genesis. But they give the Sumerians their foothold, and we get the cradle of civilization born, along with the Sumerian Empire. And we're never really told the truth. Not even when Zachariah Stitchin decoded it all were we told the truth. And the truth is that religion and government were control mechanisms given to an elite set of humans to govern the masses. And those control mechanisms are still in effect today. All religion on this planet, I don't care whether it's Judaism, Christianity, or Christendom, or Islam, or Hinduism, or Buddhism, or Shintoism, or whatever kind of ism you got, it's all going to go right back to ancient Samaria.
That's
and
true.
Right to the cradle of civilization.
Yeah.
Now, it's interesting. When we look at the actual situation which occurs, what brings about the Bible, or the writing of the Bible, is a Sumerian, a man by the name of Abram, is directed by an almighty being who is his friend to leave the city of Ur. Now let me explain the city of Ur. The city of Ur would have been like I want to say Abu Dhabi, but actually more like is it Abu? Well, whatever it is, Dubai. There you go, Dubai. If you get online and go look at Dubai. This is where they're building these fantastic, unbelievable hotels, and they're building condominium islands that look like palm trees, and it's just nothing but oil money, and it's a showcase for the world. Well, that's what Ur was like. And evidently, Abram was a very wealthy man within the city of Ur, and he was directed to pack up and leave to what is now Israel. And he was told by this omnipotent being that if he did leave for this area, that all his descendants would one day inherit this land. Now, interestingly enough, he lives as a nomad in what we now know is the land of Israel, but essentially Palestine, from pretty much the whole thing. And after a couple of generations, or a few generations, the whole family winds up down in Egypt. Oddly enough, they sell one of their brothers into slavery, and their brother winds up becoming second in command of Egypt, Upper Egypt. And he brings his whole family in, and they go to Lower Egypt. And then from there, they're brought out of Egypt, and they're brought into the Promised Land through Moses. And that's when the book of the Bible starts to be written. It's the canonization starts with the Pentateuch, or the Talmud, which is the first 5 books of the Bible, and then it just keeps on being added on all the way to Revelation. Now, here's the interesting thing. In both cases, both the Anunnaki texts and the Bible start with extraterrestrial or interdimensional beings creating life here on Earth.
Absolutely.
Now, one is just ahead of the other.
Exactly. And, it's such an amazing thing, Peter, that, I'm putting on this conference the experiencer event. And what what happened was, I first thought, oh, yeah, I'll put on this whole event about aliens, right? Well, then I started realizing, I'm an experiencer. I just don't experience it the way that, let's say, Nadine Lawledge does. She had some grays pick her up out of the back of a station wagon and carry her on a ship and do stuff to her and what have you. I've had experiences my whole life where I'm seeing the future. I'm talking to my dead relatives. I know when they're going to die. I have psychic experiences. And I've never really remembered talking to an alien, but I have met an angel. I thought it was an angel by the side of my bed. Now, maybe it wasn't an angel. Maybe it was an alien. I don't know, but it was an other dimensional character. I can tell you that. I know that for sure. So what intrigued me about this whole conference that I'm putting on is I thought, boy, I'm just not going to include all these people that are having like grays coming to the side of their bed, or they talk to Sasquatch, or what have you. We're going to have people that talk to angels, people that have met other dead people that have aliens as their guides. We're going to have all kinds of things there. So it's not just, the whole grays taking you out of the bedroom and doing their thing, right? So, and then I realized, well, this is an experiencer event because we're actually talking about consciousness in the end here. This is what it's really all about, correct?
Oh, yes, without a doubt. It's where we go. It's a matter of consciousness and soul connection,
and evolution of the consciousness. Because we're at a place right now, Peter, where I think we're evolving to understand. Once we realize there are other dimensional beings, no matter what they are, and we make it part of our existence, and people here understand how to talk to those beings in another dimension, then hey, aren't we a different evolved species?
Well, indeed we are, but here's the situation. We've been talking to these. We're actually a devolved species when you look at the record, when you look at the biblical record. Now, here's the major difference between the Anunnaki record and the biblical record. The Anunnaki give there's never any religion in the Bible. Even what was given to the Jews, or what was given, I should say, it wasn't given to the Jews, it was given to the Israelites. What was given to the Israelites was the Mosaic law. They were to follow this specific set of laws. It wasn't
Cool.
a religion. Now, around them, all the polytheistic nations around them, including Samaria, including Egypt, they worshipped many gods. But let's boy, there's a great
Well, that's interesting you
correlation.
said that.
Yeah.
You said many gods. I think
Yes.
that's fascinating because in a weird way it parallels what we're doing right now. We worship many, many gods. We've got Muhammad, Buddha, we got Christ, we got, we've got everything under the sun, plus now we've got a whole group of people that are actually in communication with other terrestrial beings from other planets, they think, from other dimensions, from other places. I mean, it's crazy. We have thousands now. It's not even just 5, it's thousands.
Well, let's get some answers here. There's a lot of people have a lot of experiences, and you're wise. Boy, there's a double-edged sword here. We could do a show about your shows.
True.
Now, your main focus is about people telling their experiences, and here's an interesting thing. When I first told my experience of what I wrongly assumed was a alien species contacting me, and I'll tell you why I'm adjusting my thinking on this.
Right.
But when I first had this happen, I'll relate the experience in a moment. But when I first came out and said it on the air, and said, okay, this is what I've been basically living with since I was 18 years old, and it was less than 24 hours later, I was contacted by someone who said, I experienced the same thing. It was like somebody took a weight off of me. It was
exactly.
It was like, really?
Absolutely. That's
Tell
what
me
it's all
your
about.
experience.
Exactly. And that's what we're doing at this conference. We're going to hit the break here in like 30 seconds. So I don't want to get too far afield from where we're at right now. But when we come back from the break, I'd love for you to start telling about your experiences, because I don't think this audience heard our other show. And I'd love for you to tell them what happened to you, because I know, and I think it's extraordinary. So everybody stay with us. We'll be right back with Peter Kling right after these messages. Welcome back, everyone, to the California MUFON Radio Show. I'm your host, Lorien Fenton. Really happy to have you here with me tonight. I've got Peter Kling here, and we're talking, I don't even know what we're talking. We're talking the really advanced stages of being a contactee. That's pretty much what it is, and the responsibilities that go with it. See, that's the most important thing, and that's just what I was talking about at the beginning of the show about the UFO Con, the experiencer event. That's really what it's all about, is getting to that stage where you're talking about it with everybody, examining it, understanding who you're in contact with, why you're in contact with them. And maybe Peter and I can talk about that a little bit later, because I'm starting to have so many more, and I hate to use this word download, but it's like I'll be sitting quietly and I'll be meditating and I will just get these flood of answers about why this is all going on in our consciousness. And I think, and this is just a Lorienism, folks, I'm not sure, but I'm starting to wonder if all the people that I'm connected with aren't part of my consciousness now. And when I say that, I say it in a kind of weird way, because I was sitting here meditating and I got this vision in my head that Peter Maxwell Slattery, Mary Rodwell, Kathleen Marden, Barbara Lamb, Nadine Lawlich, Peter Kling, everybody that I've interviewed has gotten into my universal consciousness, and I am connected with all these people on a spiritual, other dimensional level, where we're all processing all this and bringing it into a 3D reality for everybody else's energy. I know that sounds really wacko because I'm not explaining it quite right, but what it is
Should I explain it for you?
Yes, Peter, please do. I was just going to say, maybe I should ask Peter for the answer.
Here's the answer, and this isn't theory, this is scientific fact. When we meditate, especially in deep meditation, or when we go to sleep with something on our minds, like Eventually, we slow down from the show, and we'll go to sleep, contemplating the show or something. So UFOs or other people, the guest was on our mind, whatever the case might be. Well, when our brain hits 7 cycles per second in the theta level, the hypothalamus opens up our right hemisphere, and our right hemisphere starts to communicate with the rest of the world. Everyone whose brain is vibrating at 7 hertz per second will share the same information on what we consider a subconscious or unconscious level. However, if you're meditating, theta is very conscious. So you can actually be broadcasting in theta at 7 hertz per second and reach every unconscious mind on the face of the planet. This is not science fiction, it is science fact. It is how the Schumann resonance works. The problem that we face is that as the Schumann resonance is being manipulated, and typically the Schumann resonance this is the vibration of the very planet itself. Typically it vibrates at about 7.8 hertz. However, it's been going up through alpha, through beta, and into gamma. And it's been clocked as high as 6,500 hertz. I'm sorry, 65 hertz. So this is way disproportionate. If our brains thought at that speed, we'd eventually just become faint and pass out. Dolphins think at that speed it takes both hemispheres operating simultaneously to do it. So it is possible for us to do, but wow, talk about the stress levels and everything looking like it's going in slow motion.
Absolutely. Oh my God, Peter, you just did something. I was on my other show the other day, and I mentioned when I had my 2 experiences where I felt like I was being pushed and I fell and broke parts of my body, and I thought to myself, this whole thing happened in slow motion both times, and it had never happened that way before. It was the weirdest sensation. So I'm wondering, I'm absolutely sure now that there was some other entity in the room doing the pushing, and that they put me into their same bubble of consciousness as I was falling. That's why it happened in such slow motion.
You even jumped into Giga.
Yeah, I don't know what happened, but I'll tell you what, I was very close on the second one to dying, because I was heading the forehead right where your nose is, the bridge of your nose. I was told by the doctor if I'd hit that corner of that tub as hard as I hit to shatter my shoulder, I would have pushed that into my brain and I would have been dead.
Yeah, I can appreciate that, and that's an interesting segue into my experience.
Yes. Okay. Thank you for that. Okay, we're not going to talk about me anymore. Let's get on to Peter here.
Well, here's the interesting thing. I was asleep in my bedroom. I was 18. This was just after my 18th birthday. I was born April 11th. This was the end of May, beginning of June. And out of a dead sleep, someone in my room said, "Look, the prince arrives." And I popped up out of my bed and looked. My bed faced the window, so I was looking outside my window and I saw flashing lights. I was like, "Well, what the heck is this?" And I ran right by what was ever there that looked kind of human to me. But anyway, I ran right by it because there was something flashing outside my backyard, and there wasn't anything outside my backyard but woods. and so here I see this craft landing. And it literally looks like a chariot of the gods. Now, let me place this in time for you. This is a couple of years after Eric von Daniken wrote Chariot of the Gods. How convenient.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, this is back in 1974. I think he wrote it, Chariot of the Gods, in 1972, 1970, around there.
That's right. Yeah, I was just getting into high school then.
Yeah, and this was when I was graduating. So this is my graduating year. So here, what I see, it looks like a golden chariot with golden horses molded right into it, and it looks like a prince is in command of landing it. And underneath it, there's flashing lights and steam coming out of it, and it's actually landing toward the other side of the house. And when I ran around to go look out the other window to get a better look at it, it was gone. And there was nobody in my room, and I was left by myself, scratching my head and wondering what in the world just happened. So I was like, okay. So I went back to, I was wondering, I knew I didn't just dream it because I was up running around in my room. So I went
Yeah,
back to sleep.
exactly.
I went
So,
back to
Peter, I forgot to ask you this the other day. You had that experience, but you don't remember anything about it except for that part, right?
Well, that's how it started and seemed to end right there. Now,
Okay.
after I went back to sleep, somewhere I was transported. I at least consciously. I can't say I was transported physically, but
Correct.
you know what? I couldn't tell you the difference today. And anybody relating an experience that they had is an experience of memory, and it's impossible unless they've got literal physical scars on their body. But it's impossible for the brain to tell you the difference.
Yes,
It's just telling you what it recorded.
absolutely.
Your
Yep.
body shows the physical experience, but or whatever you happen to be in, but whatever the case might be. But once it's happened, it's history, and now your brain doesn't know the difference whether it was the reality or whether it was an implantation. Kind of like
A false memory, as they call them, or a implanted memory, or
yeah,
yeah,
like Total Recall.
yeah,
You, you
yeah.
know, so was I physically taken anywhere? I don't know because I always went to sleep in my bed. I always woke up in my bed, but so does everybody else that has these experiences. The only
Well,
thing that was
that's
different
true.
is that I
Now,
wasn't taken to a spaceship. I was taken underground.
yeah, see, this is the part that really gets me going. So tell them about the underground experience. This is so cool.
But well, here's the thing. I'm underground, and my initial meeting was to meet the prince and the royal family, and it was. I'm expecting, it was kind of like a castle, supposedly. I don't know what I was really expecting, but it was all very kind of informal, and I didn't really get to meet them directly, but
Now, when you
they all
say
look very.
the prince and the royal family, you're talking about like the queen mother and the
Well,
Prince Charles and those kind of kings and queens. What are we talking about here?
it was that same hierarchy, that same hierarchy, but
Okay.
it was among these subterranean aliens, as I believe they.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Because last time you said it, I thought, oh, he's going to meet the queen mother and
No, no,
all
no,
those
no, no,
guys.
no, 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 no. And this was just the prince. There was never mention of any king, any queen, anybody else. It was just the prince.
Oh, okay.
Now this is an oddity. So now and I'll explain why it's an oddity in a minute. But I'm like, okay, well, I don't feel totally comfortable with this whole situation, but it's intriguing nonetheless. I'm meeting these, and I'm going to digress here as soon as we get to the interesting part. Not that this isn't already interesting, but after that initial meeting, I tried to slip away and find out where I was. And that didn't work out too well. And I was then given an escort that I was constantly with after that, and I wasn't allowed to leave their side. And everybody was dressed the same way. Everyone was dressed in what appeared to be monks' robes, but it was very modern material. It was futuristic material. It had a heavy feel to it, but it was super smooth and silky. And the everything was stone, except that the ceilings were the lights. It was like the whole ceiling illuminated.
That's interesting.
The way that this finally kind of ends here, although this is only the beginning, is I'm finally in a room with it's like another getting to know you and meeting, and I'm kind of like in a company mixer, or a company meeting, or a chamber of commerce meeting or something like that, if anybody's ever been to one of those. And I'm with my guide here, and someone stands up in the room. There's about 60, 70 of these different very human-looking creatures around, and this person stands up and they say, "Can I have everyone's attention?" And so everybody stops talking. They look forward, and he just calmly says, "We need someone to kill Peter Kling." And my eyes popped out of my head, and my mouth dropped open, and I was speechless.
Yeah,
And
at least, right?
I turned to my guide that was standing next to me. I said, "Why do they want to kill me?" And he just simply said, "Because you crossed the line." I was like, "What line did I cross? What did I do?" And it was what I didn't do. You see, the whole time that I was in the situation, I was under apprehension because nothing was matching up with everything that I had been taught. Now, what was I taught? Here's an interesting thing. A situation which started manifesting itself in my mother's life at the age of 12 finally manifested itself in her life when I was 4 years old. And it also became part of my life. Oddly enough, I had some very interesting people who were teaching me the Bible, but not from a religious standpoint. I was told to avoid, never get involved with religion or politics. Why would they tell me that from the time I was the smallest of a child? Never get involved with religion and politics. Never get involved with Anunnaki religion and Anunnaki politics.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. I was told it was a scam. That's what I was told. It was a scam.
Okay, so how old were you when this was going on?
I was just turning 5. Turning 5
so
years
you're
old.
being told Anunnaki stuff is a scam
But
to try
you see, Anunnaki was never mentioned. It was just the fact that religion and politics were a scam.
Right. Well, hey, I think they are. I hate to say it, but in a lot of weird ways.
They go right back. Before the Anunnaki, there were no kings. There were no priestesses. There were no gods.
That's right.
You see, we're talking about the time of Nimrod, who was the great-grandson of Noah, who had a relationship with Yahuwah, who told them to build the ark in the first place. Why? Because, as it says in Genesis, the sons of the true God saw that that men had grown in number and that their daughters were hot. And, well, it doesn't say hot, but it says that their daughters were beautiful. And so they came and they took wives for themselves, all whom they chose. And then it says that they gave their wives gave birth to the Nephilim. And so now we go back into pre-antiquity where, all of a sudden this all becomes legend and stories of the gods, and even the scriptures say right in Genesis, the famous men of old.
That's right.
About the Nephilim. So, here's the interesting thing. You really want to get a good story? Go read the book of Enoch. Wow.
I know. It's amazing, isn't it?
We're not talking about three-dimensional beings here. We're talking about interdimensionals. And it's
absolutely.
quite obvious in the book of Enoch. Maybe that's why they didn't put it in the biblical canon.
Well,
my excuse
men have been using politics and religion to control us for as long as they possibly can. Now, whether these are men or real men or they're evil entities, I have no idea. But it's been going on since, as we like to say, quote unquote, time began. It was certainly after David and all of the, it started rearing its ugly head in Egypt, basically.
Actually, we can track it right back to Samaria.
Yeah, you can.
And now I'm going to tie a lot of this together because the history of this is important. Because here's a fact. Genesis 2:21 through 23. God says it's not good for the man to be alone. I'm going to create a helper for him. Pay attention to this, folks. So he causes a sleep to fall over the man. He opens up the flesh. He's performing an operation, or an operation is being performed. He removes a rib, part of the human body which can regenerate itself. And then that tissue sample is then brought. Think of the fifth element.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Very similar to the Fifth Element, yeah.
Yeah, that tissue sample is brought to genetic engineering.
Oh,
and
of
it's
course.
genetic engineered into a woman, and it's brought before the man, and the man says, at last, This is flesh of my flesh and bone of my bones. This one was taken from man. I shall call her woman. And you see, here's an interesting thing. When you read the account, it says, and they were naked. Ooh, they were good with it. Hey, guess what they were going to be doing?
Yeah, they started the first nudist colony.
Now here's the interesting thing. Let's take a look at our own consciousness. When do we feel most comfortable being around someone else, being totally naked? Isn't it kind of like when we're making love?
Yeah, supposedly.
That's an experience that can really only be felt in alpha. Very rarely do you feel love in beta. And when you're in theta, you're out of that point. But to really feel love, you have to be in alpha. That's a fact. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no
I hadn't really thought about it that way.
Yeah, how about
I'm
that?
old.
You see, now we're starting to make a connection. You see, here's the great thing. We're making a soul connection with someone that we find very dearly, someone that we want to literally become one with them, and then we go on and create offspring, and that's how we get more people. But it's interesting. You want to bond with that person at a level that you don't want to bond with anybody else at.
True.
Yeah.
But you know what, Peter? I'm going to examine this just a little further on for you, okay? What I think is happening when people are making love, and I hate to say this, folks, then this is just from my experience of being an old woman who used to do those kind of things, okay? with my husbands, of course. But here's the trick. I found that it was more chemically induced than it was actual consciousness induced. What is your take on that, Peter?
Oh, absolutely. Beyond a shadow of a doubt. It all has to do with human pheromones.
Exactly. It all has to do with chemicals and the chemicals. Now, I'm not arguing. I'm not arguing with you. I'm saying the chemicals actually kick you into alpha.
You know what the name of the chemical is? Alpha anhydrone.
Oh, you're kidding me.
It is. When I was doing my work with it, it was $55,000 a pound.
Whoa, are you serious? I mean, you could buy this? It'll make you want to have sex? I mean, I don't even get this. Explain this to me.
I did a whole research study on this back in the late 70s, early 80s, and it was human scent. It was our attraction to human scent, and working in the chemical field, I had access to a lot of papers that normal people wouldn't have. Unfortunately, we didn't have the internet, so everybody can do the research now. But look up human pheromones, and what we find is that from the earliest ages, we bond with a scent. It's mother and child, and what they find is that an infant, will actually orient itself in the direction of its mother's breast pad. So it can smell its mother's scent on the breast pad and will orient itself. It will move itself closest to that breast pad. And so scent becomes something that is locked into our minds from the time that we are given birth to. And it's locked in at such a deep level. It gets locked in at the most primordial levels possible. And so there's always the bonding, there's always the scent of the person who we bond with. So guess what we want to smell when we find a lover? Someone who smells like the person that we bonded with. More than likely, our caregiver. Yeah. And what do we do when we find that person? We subconsciously hug them, smell them, and pat them on the back. I love you. Yeah. Burp. Thank you, Ma.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
I hadn't even thought about that. I mean, I had at different points during biological classes and, all those things. Yeah, we talk about stuff like that. But, really, now that I'm older and I'm wiser and I'm having some kind of weird contact, I do understand that this really leads into who's in control of us, because whoever programmed us or made us or developed us, man, talk about complex. I mean, we're just going down the pheromone channel here. Can you imagine how many channels there are of complex chemical structures within our DNA that make us who we are and make us be able to connect with them on so many levels?
Here's a fact. They have found that one strand of human DNA contains all the information to create all life on this planet.
Oh my God.
Right
That's
down
absolutely
to the
stunning.
cyanobacteria. How about that? You mean you just have to put more spokes in the bicycle wheel? Yeah, how about that? That's genetic engineering. Who were the genetic engineers? You see, we're going to talk about that on the backside of this because guess what? They weren't three-dimensional alien as we understand them.
Absolutely. I totally agree
when you
with
read the book of Enoch, when he was taken, he said that life forms who could change from the form of fire to the form of man and back to the form of fire at will were those who took him.
And when you say the form of fire, I find that extremely interesting because I've talked to a lot of contactees lately who tell me that they're aliens that are little grays or that they're mantis beings or whatever are actually morphing into beings of light. And I would think that a being of light would be considered for Enoch probably a god of fire.
When we come back, we're going to talk about the prince too.
Oh, okay, wonderful. Because we haven't met the prince yet, have we? We're still underground waiting for you to talk to him. Well, we're still trying to figure out if they're going to kill you or not, right?
Well, they've actually, interesting thing. Let's see. Since that time, I should have been dead 16 times, was dead once, and got sent back.
Oh, yes. I didn't know about that because we didn't talk about that last time. So we're going to talk about it this time.
Yeah, we never did. One time I was saved by a blue orb.
Okay, well, Peter, we're going to have to wait. We're going to have to wait because it's break time. Everybody stay with us. Peter's going to tell us all about his experiences when we get back here, so stay with us. Welcome back, everyone, to the California MUFON Radio Show. I'm your host, Lorien Fenton. We're here tonight on Inception Radio Network, and I want to thank Inception for letting us also appear on Veterans Truth Network and Late Night in the Midlands with Mike Vara. So it's a great, great thing that IRN is doing. We're spreading the wealth of California MUFON Radio all over the airwaves. I just want to thank them for that. I really appreciate it. And so does Veterans Truth Network and Late Night in the Midlands. So thank you for that, guys. And also, don't forget, you guys, you've got to get your app because the app is the most important thing in my life. If it wasn't for that app, I swear to you, and I'm laughing because today, again, I'm working away. I'm working in QuickBooks. I'm really concentrating. I'm doing stuff. And if that app hadn't gone off a half hour before the show and told me I've got to get home, I think I'd still be sitting there right now working on the problem I was facing. So thank God for the app at IRM because it does get me home in time for my show. So I hope it gets you guys home in time to listen to the show. So get the app. If you don't have it, it really is extraordinary. It's lots of fun. Besides being informative and helpful, it's lots of fun. So there you are. Let's see what the guys are saying to me. Oh, YouTube subscribers. Oh yeah, I keep forgetting about that. Thanks, MJ. We have a YouTube channel now. IRN has a YouTube channel. It's so cool. I visited it a couple times myself, and you guys can subscribe and listen to shows and special events and all kinds of things coming down the pike. And also, I guess I should announce this because I just talked to MJ about it, and I think it's going to happen. My good friend Miles Johnston is putting on a conference in the UK, and it will be August 21st in the evening starting at 6 p.m. and run through the whole weekend. And he has invited me and IRN to do a live broadcast with interviewing the people at the conference on Friday night to open the conference. So it'll be a special broadcast on IRN. If we can make it all happen, it'll be in the afternoon on Friday. UK time is 8 hours ahead of us. So it'll be probably about 10 a.m. to noon Pacific. Noon to 2 Central and 1 to 3 Eastern is what I think we're going to end up with. So we'll keep you posted on that. We'll get a banner up on the website announcing it, and it should be a lot of fun. Very interesting people I'm going to be interviewing, so stay tuned for more information about that. Okay. All right, Peter, are you still with me? I'm dying to hear about the near-death experience and meeting the prince.
Let's start with the prince.
Okay.
I could never. I said that things just didn't seem to add up. Now, what was I talking about? Let's go to the 10th chapter of Daniel. Daniel's waiting for a message to find out the future of Israel, and the message is being delayed. Finally, the angel Gabriel shows
wait
up.
a minute, you were on
Then he
Mars,
basically
too.
says, "Sorry, I was late, Daniel. I had to fight the Prince of Persia, and he wouldn't let me pass. And I had to go get Michael, the foremost one among you, to fight with the Prince of Persia so I can deliver the message." And so he delivers the message to Daniel, and when he leaves, or when he gets ready to leave, he says, "Well, I have to go back and fight the Prince of Persia, and look, the Prince of Greece is coming." Now, Gabriel also told the young Jewish woman, or Hebrew woman,
when
Mary,
I first met him on the
that
surface
she
of
was
Mars, I did not
pregnant
recognize
with the
him.
zygote of God's child, Jesus. Beam me in, Scotty. Think about that. Anyway, so Gabriel is mentioned twice, and the first time he's mentioned is in the book of Daniel when he's having a fight with an interdimensional. He obviously wasn't having a fight with Cyrus the Great or Xerxes. Cyrus the Great would have been the Persian at the time that was ruling, but he wasn't having a fight with him. He could have easily have dispatched him and moved on. So obviously, he had. Now, the Prince of Persia was powerful enough that Gabriel had to go back and get Michael the Archangel to come and fight the Prince of Persia.
Right.
Now, one of the things that I was taught also from an early age, I was never taught religion. I was taught biblical history, biblical prophecy, and biblical exopolitics. Exopolitics before exopolitics.
Explain what exopolitics is for everyone, because I'm still grasping with that word. I mean, it's become it gets bantered around in the UFO and, spiritual communities and all that, and I'm still trying to figure out what they mean by it. So explain that, please.
It's basically the political system of alien beings. We look at these creatures, we think that they're three-dimensional from other star systems, and the reason for that is that very few people can grasp the reality of interdimensionals. Let me explain something here, and this is mathematical theory, and the only reason it's theory is because we have no way to prove it. Okay. And I imagine it's going to remain theory for quite some time. But string theory gave birth to M theory, and M theory gave birth to superstring theory, and 4 different groups of people working from 4 different directions all came up with the same calculations. So it's pretty much mathematical fact. However, we can't prove it in reality. But this is what it says. It says that all matter, doesn't matter what it is, but everything vibrates. All energy vibrates at a specific preset speed based on the vibration of a string, which is either linear or circular in shape. We're talking about subatomic particle. Now, how small are we talking? At the atomic level, there is 1 part solid for 4 trillion parts empty space. And what we're talking about is inside of that at a subatomic level. That's what they're trying to find at CERN, is the God particle. Now, there's a lot of room. 1 part of solid for 4 trillion parts of empty space. Why can't we walk through anything? A little simple 3D law called electromagnetism and gravity. It works on every level, from the atomic level right on up to the largest of solar systems and galaxies.
Absolutely. Yep.
It's what controls everything in the 3rd dimension. And the 3rd dimension is it's not 1, 2, and 3. The 3-dimensional reality that we believe that we're living in is actually dimension 8, 9, and 10.
I agree with you.
Well, you agree with the math.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with all this. This is like, yeah. And I just want to say one quick thing before we go on with this, because I have gone through a door. I was having an out-of-body experience. I did not look back and see my body on the bed, but I went through the door and I remember the fibers. And I've been trying to recreate walking through a wall ever since then. But it was in an out-of-body experience, so I know we can do it. We just can't do it in this reality that we're in, or the body that we're in right now, because of the way it's all structured together.
Correct.
So
But
anyhow,
that's
go ahead.
That's only a temporary situation.
Exactly.
We don't have perfect DNA, nor do we have the spiritual connection that we need. Now, I'll explain both this. And here's, as I'm talking about this, notice I ain't talking about religious dogma. I'm talking about science.
Exactly.
You can't prove squat with religious dogma because it's all Anunnaki baloney.
Anunnaki baloney. That should be on the shelf at Safeway.
Anunnaki
I'm
baloney.
sorry. I've just seen a package with the Anunnaki thing on it with, the flying wings out of Egypt and a baloney in there. But go ahead.
I get a picture. I see a picture of Pope Francis holding a big sausage. I don't know.
Oh, dear. Oh, God. I'm not going to ever. That's stuck in my head now. Okay.
Anunnaki baloney. It comes right out of the Vatican.
Yes, there you go. Oh, okay. Where were we before we took our little laugh break there?
So here's the thing. Now we're establishing this interdimensional world in which we're in, and the fact is that at the God particle we go back to the singularity, and this is also mentioned in Revelation, where Yahuwah himself, or Yahweh himself. Yahuwah, by the way, is the correct pronunciation for the Tetragrammaton. Yeah, that is as I was told by a Christian woman who was Jewish, who had a doctorate in ancient Hebrew linguistics.
Amazing. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I said, geez, with that background, I'll take your word for it, lady.
Yahuwah.
Yeah,
okay.
Now, when we go back, what it says in Genesis, in Revelation, it says, God speaking of himself, he says, I am the Alpha and the Omega. Before me there was nothing, and after me there'll be nothing. Now, we know one of the first laws of physics is that we can neither create nor destroy energy. If both are true, then at one time, we're back at the singularity, all energy had to be pure, dynamic energy. Energy at its most pure form or state. And you know what? That energy doesn't have to be any particular size, shape, or form. It just has to be one dimension, the singularity. It's also considered the zero dimension, the dimension which all of the dimensions come from. And when you look at it, it says in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. We call it the Big Bang. It more than likely, according to M theory, which I said came from string theory, is that two membranes touching each other created an electromagnetic shock that went through the membrane, creating our universe, our physical universe, and that event horizon to event horizon will last about 1 trillion years, which means we have about 985 billion years to go.
Wow.
Yeah. Now think about that. On the cosmic clock, we don't. Anybody who lives to the ripe old age of 100 doesn't get past 2.5 hours old on the cosmic clock.
Exactly, or less, actually. Gosh, that's absolutely mind-boggling.
Yeah, so you see why
what's even more mind-boggling to this, Peter, is people don't understand the I don't know how to explain this either, because I'm not a scientist by any stretch of the imagination, but how big the universe is and how small the atoms and, the whatever that are within our body, and the vast difference between the two. It's absolutely mind-boggling to me how many amoebas can be living in my body right now, having a whole universe.
We are host to over 1 trillion life forms inside and outside our body.
Absolutely.
Think about it. That's another
crazy.
Scientific fact.
It's crazy.
So now bring in fractal technology and we can start to understand God. Here's an interesting thing. When I started my research back around 1980, It was based on a scripture I found in Job that had to do with global warming. 10 years before global warming became a term.
Really?
It's Job 38th chapter, I believe, the 22nd verse, which says, God says to Job, "Have you seen my storehouses of ice and snow, which I have saved for the day of distress and war?" And I thought, I'm a chemist. How do you use ice and snow? What are the properties of water? H2O. You get the freezing, you get more. You're melting, you get, whoa, wait a minute. If you melt it, you redistribute the weight around the world, and then you get earthquakes in one place after another. It fulfills another biblical prophecy. It also raises the sea levels, and 90%, 80% of the world's population live within 90 miles of the coast.
Yes. Oh, God.
Think how that changes the dynamics of things. So whether you want to believe global warming is a fact or not, the glaciers are melting, and that's a fact.
Yes, and they're melting from underneath. Isn't that true?
Yeah. Well,
mentioned that?
Well, I don't think I actually mentioned it, but what's actually happening is that there's pools of water that's forming, and the water is naturally warmer than the glacier, and it works its way down through the glacier and gets to the bottom, and it melts the glacier from the bottom, and the glacier just slides faster. It becomes more like a lubricant than anything else, and so the glaciers are actually moving faster and getting closer to the sea quicker. But that's just one little tiny aspect, and that was 3,500 years ago.
Wait, Peter, wait. I got to stop you. What happened with the prince?
Well, I never did.
I just realized my brain just went, wait, where are we going here? I want that Prince story to finish out.
Well, you see, this is where it brings us kind of like right back to this, into the exopolitics end of it.
Okay.
The exopolitics, which is one of the things that I was being taught. Now, at 18, I had already had 14 years, 13 years anyway, of biblical education. And so I was very skeptical. The thing is that I had an event, and it's odd how this all ties in. I had an event that happened when I was 9 years old. It actually happened in October. The second week in October, I had a dream about where I was walking my dog, and on the way back, I saw these three men. One was dressed like one of Robin Hood's merry men, one was dressed like a hippie, and the other one was dressed like Jack Frost. And they passed me in the night, and they went off, and I went home. And the dream became reality a week later. And the oddity of all of this is here I was walking the dog. The only thing that was different, I'm on the other side of the street, and these three guys, literally, one looks like a hippie, and the other one looks like one of Robin Hood's merry men, and out of an Errol Flynn movie, and the other guy looks like Jack Frost, stovepipe hats, red scarf, black cape, even patent leather shoes, and they just talked among themselves like I was never there. And they just walked off into the night. I was one terrified little 9-year-old kid. I ran home with I wasn't scared from the aspect of being harmed, because the dog was a trained guard dog that my dad had imported from Germany, and I could command him with the word, so that wasn't a big deal. And when I spotted these guys from my dream, I had already told the dog, I gotta speak to him in German, I told the dog that these were bad men to watch them, and we both kind of like watched them walk off into the night darkness, and we ran home.
Oh, wow.
And when I ran up the stairs, and my mother was washing the evening dishes, and I'm all out of breath. I ran 2 blocks and up a flight of stairs and into the house or into the apartment, and Ma, I just had a dream that came true. And my mother said, "Well, that's nice. It's time for you to go to bed." And I was like, "What?" And it was like the spiritual door was just shut smack in my face, because here I had already had 4 years of biblical education, basically, and I knew about the prophets. I knew about Samuel, 5 years old, being given to the temple, and then all of a sudden God starts talking to him. That's interesting. And I didn't have, and the spiritual door was just shut in my face. So I turned to science. Interesting. It literally caused a paradox in my life. I can look at that one point in my life and say, wow, that changed my life completely, because that put me at 10 years old. I literally had my own chemistry set, and I grew up with a Bible in one hand and a test tube in the other. And in 1980, I put them both together, and that's when I started saying, okay, wait a minute, evolution, creation, there's got to be a different answer here. And when I found when I came across that little scripture in Job, I started thinking, okay, let's look at this from a scientific viewpoint. Instead of looking for discrepancies and reasons to argue between the Bible and science, let's look for what brings it together. And so I went right back to Genesis and started going down through that. And it was the genetic, and it was the order of how things were created, and then the genetic engineering. And here's something interesting. We could never understand or start to decode the Bible until we understood genetic engineering. Now, here's an interesting point. I mentioned that Adam and Eve were an alpha and they were naked. Well, after they eat the fruit, which God said, the day you eat from it, you'll die, they had a state change at the very moment that they ate it. I questioned, could there have been a virus in that fruit? And I'm going to modify the question a little bit, since I've gotten a little bit more educated because our science has been more advanced. Could our DNA been circular? You know how we have like two strands and there's like a little notch and there's two strands when you look at the human DNA?
Right. It looks like it's been pulled apart.
Well, what if you
or it's just shaved off at each end?
Yeah.
Right.
Now on the ends you have there's telomeres, and the number of telomeres dictate they're like the little plastic ends on your shoelaces. Every time the DNA duplicates, you lose a set of telomeres, and when you run out of telomeres, you're screwed, and you die. Anyway, if that, what if
sounds like the name of a song?
What if that fruit contained a virus, which was a telomere virus, which turned around, came in and snipped the DNA and added telomeres to it? Now, what if that's the case? That means at one time our DNA could have been connected, like an infinity sign. And it would continue to duplicate over and over and over again. It would replicate itself from the middle out, and it would split in infinite amount of years. Now, here's another scientific fact. There ain't none of us listen to this radio show that's over 7 years old physically, because our bodies rebuild themselves every 7 years.
That's true. Absolutely.
Yeah. So we're all children at heart. Get used to the idea, you old fogies.
I know I am.
Yeah, if you stop laughing, you've lost this fight.
Oh, absolutely. That makes it... I'm glad you brought that up, Peter. And not that I want to get away from the Prince thing, because I'm still trying to get there. But, the thing I find fascinating is all of my friends over the years have fallen off to the wayside from me, not because I changed, but because they all had kids, they got a job, they had things go on. And what I think it did to them, it aged them in a way that they stopped having fun. And I don't know even how to explain it. And maybe you can't scientifically what's going on here, but they start becoming, they start worrying about things. They start taking...
You ever see the movie The Labyrinth with David Bowie and all the Muppet characters?
No, I didn't actually. I don't think I did.
If you had kids, you probably saw it. but being as you didn't, I can understand that. But it's actually entertaining and worth watching because there's a really good message in there. And it's pretty much where we are now. It's our search through the labyrinth. And when we find the answer, we realize they can't harm us.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's it. I don't have any fear. And I think that's the bottom line. My friends all had fear. They have kids. They have to protect something. They've got to do this. They got to do that. And they don't have time anymore for exploring, exploring their consciousness. To them, that's like, what? You've got time to do what?
Well, now here's an interesting thing. In the story, the main character is this girl, teenage girl, about 16. And she's given this poison fruit that she eats, and it puts her in a hypnotic trance. And when she comes out of it, she's back in her bedroom, or what appears to be her bedroom, except that there's this little old creature. Now, it's a Muppet movie. A little old creature. It's a little old woman, and she's got all this stuff piled up on her back. She's all hunched over, and she's got, like, old chairs and just, junk piled up on her back. And this girl's trying to figure out where she is. She's in her bedroom, but she knows it's not quite her bedroom. And this old woman's going around saying, "Oh, look, here's your bear. You remember you lost this bear? No, here's something else you lost." She starts giving her all this stuff to hold on to and to carry. And the girl realizes this isn't right, and she throws it all down. And she starts clawing at the walls, and she digs her way out of a garbage pile. You see,
wow.
yeah, isn't that an interesting thing? You see,
That
people get weighed down with the garbage of life, and they
Yes,
forget
absolutely.
to live life. And when you're not weighed down with the garbage of life, you can live it.
And and I hate to say this because here comes the conspiracy buff out of me, because I'm a huge JFK assassination and Lee Harvey Oswald supporter, and I love all that stuff because I think it's all connected to what we're talking about right now. It's that
Of course
whoever
it
the
is.
Bilderbergers are and the people that run this country and run the planet, and whether it's an energy field that does it or actual reptilian beings or God knows what's doing it,
The
but
prince.
it's greed and fear that they use to get to everybody that they can. And that's how they control us. And
Well-
once you realize that that's ridiculous and how can you fall for that, you're not controlled anymore.
We have
So-
free will. That's the thing. We have
Exactly.
free will. Exercise it. Exercise your free will. Once we give up that free will and let ourselves be controlled, we're doomed.
Yep, absolutely. That
Well-
that's huge. That's 99% of being a human on this planet is getting uncontrolled. The minute you get uncontrolled, then you can join the people out there that are worried about consciousness and worried about telling other people about consciousness and changing the world to a loving place. Because
Stop
that's
worrying.
really
Just
what
do
we're
it.
here for.
Yeah,
You
just
know?
stop. Once we worry, we bring fear into it. Why worry about it? If we do it from a standpoint of loving each other, and loving the planet, and loving and caring enough, and we are, because we're here, we're doing this. You want to talk about financial disasters? Letters to Earth, You Can Survive Armageddon has been one of the biggest financial disasters I've ever been involved in.
Oh my God. Well, speaking of financial disasters, we got to take a break.
So it's not
I
such a
can't
disaster.
believe it. Just another 25 minutes went by and I didn't even notice it. Well, okay, everyone, stick with us. And if you've got questions for Peter, be sure to put them in the chat room tonight. So we'll ask him. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone, to the California MUFON Radio Show. I'm your host, Lorien Fenton. We're here with Peter Kling tonight. You guys got to check out his website. It's peterkling.com, and just like it sounds, Kling, peterkling.com. Check it out because his book is absolutely an amazing book, by the way. It's called Letters to Earth, and it's Armageddon. Let's see, Surviving Armageddon. That's what it's called. Letters to Earth, Surviving Armageddon, or You Can Survive Armageddon. Gosh, I can't read today, you guys. I don't know what's going on. It says, "Welcome to Letters to Earth. You can survive Armageddon. We invite you to browse through our store and shop with confidence. We invite you to create an account with us if you'd like, or shop as a guest. Either way, your shopping cart will be active until you leave the store. Thanks for visiting." So that's what you get when you get to Letters to Earth. You Can Survive the Armageddon's website for peterkling.com. And he's got the book on CD. He's got Letters to Earth as a downloadable PDF. He also have Letters to Earth, You Can Survive Armageddon as a soft cover and a hardcover there right on the website. So check it out. Okay, Peter, where were we when we got interrupted because it was time to stop?
Let's talk about the prince, because we haven't gotten there yet. Who is the prince?
Yes, the prince. Oh, yeah.
I never understood who the prince was, exactly the prince of what, or where the line was. He just had the title the prince.
Now, if everybody hasn't remembered, we're now in an underground cavern. Peter's
Yeah.
asleep, but he's in this underground cavern. So we're
Well,
not sure if he's there physically or dimensionally. And he's meeting this group of people who just said, "We need to kill Peter."
Well, yeah, that's where it ended up.
Who's going to kill Peter, right?
Yeah, that's pretty much where it ended up. But going back to identify the prince and who these life forms were underground, I brought up the Prince of Persia and the Prince of Greece. Well, in the account of Daniel 10, we would have to continue to believe that there would also be a Prince of Rome, a Prince of Great Britain, a prince of the United States, a prince of Germany, a prince of France. Prince of Greece is getting his butt kicked, as we talked about earlier.
Yes, he
Yeah,
is.
on the financial
Right.
scene. And obviously, the Prince of the United States has risen above all the rest. You see,
Well,
so now let's take a look at who these underground critters are. Are they really aliens? I don't know. Interestingly enough, a woman by the name of Karen Hughes popped on the scene a few years ago. She was an attorney for the World Bank, and she
right.
uncovered some very serious and very wrong doings within the World Bank, and she reported it, and they kind of swept it under the carpet, and she went public with it, and she's been trying to get them to be honest and give up all the fraudulent banking things that they've been doing over the years. And I wish her the best. But a few interesting. I just interviewed Karen a week ago. It'll be a week ago. Yeah, actually, it's a week ago today. We're in Thursday now here on the East Coast. Anyway, and I brought this up to her because I wanted to expound on this. Of course, she got all upset by the thing. But a few years ago, she brought up an underground species that is controlling those who rule this planet. In other words, the King of England, the Queen of England, and Prince Philip. I guess Prince Charles for that matter too. But all these different royals and all the we hear shapeshifters, and people have claimed Hillary is shapeshifted, and they see these reptilian eyes. And interestingly enough, if you read what Princess Diana's maidservant wrote, Princess Diana is said to have seen both the Queen and Prince Philip shapeshift from their current form that we know them as into reptilian creatures and back.
Absolutely. I mean, at least she said she did. Now,
Yes.
we don't know if it's all real or not, folks, but we're definitely talking about it here because you know what, Peter? It's interesting you brought that up because people don't understand that time tells all. And I say that in a funny way because, 35 years ago, I heard something. Then 10 years after that, I heard something else. Then 10 years after that, I heard something. And 5 years ago, I heard something. And they were all the same thing, but I just chalked them away in the back of my head because Diana said it. David Icke said it, that he saw somebody shapeshift as well. I've had other friends, and these are friends of mine, folks. These aren't just people off the street, or they aren't famous people like Diana that have said, I have absolutely seen that type of thing happen. And, I put it all away, and then I wait until 4 or 5 or 10 or 15 people say the same thing. And it may take 50 years for me to get that information, but whatever it is, I've gotten it now. And now I'm on the side, Peter, where I'm starting to think this may be real. You don't hear this kind of stuff from,
It's real.
Yeah, it's like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, at first you go, are you sure? And then you just kind of go, right. But after you hear it more and more, and it's not, it's credible people. It's not just the UFO community talking about it now. So
let's take a look. Now here's something, the whole reason for writing letters to Earth, and you can survive Armageddon. Trust me, Armageddon isn't the end of the world. It's the end of this world evil system that we're forced to live under. And it's
Absolutely.
the end of evil alien rule.
Yes.
Now let's talk about how do you come up with this. Let's take a look at this fruit, this genetically engineered fruit that could have had this telomere virus in it. Who seduced the woman? Oh, it says the serpent. Now let's not get into any kind of dogmatic type of conversation, but who's the serpent? You see, this same character plays all the way through and becomes the great serpent in Revelation. And when you start reading the events in Revelation, there's an interdimensional war going on. You read Revelation 12, chapter 12, that's an interdimensional war.
Absolutely.
You read Revelation chapter 13. I don't know exactly what comes out of the abyss, but it sounds pretty damn alien to me.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
The size of horses with faces that look somewhat human, with lion's teeth and hair, woman's hair, and tails like scorpions. Oh, wait a minute. Is this like a crossbreed between the alien movies and something else? Who knows? But here's the situation. We have whistleblowers that come out of the military complex that talk about cloned armies, either in bases, my favorite is the I forgot the colonel's name, but he recently, within the last year, there was a video that came out, and he was a whistleblower, and he claimed to have all sorts of clearance right on up to assassinate.
Is that Colonel K?
It may be, but he talked about the Nephilim, and he said that earthquake that cracked the Washington Monument and the one out was right at the Colorado. Was it Colorado, New Mexico? What's south? I think it's New Mexico, right? Colorado, New Mexico border. There was an earthquake there. He said that both of those were nukes of underground bases where these Nephilim were being kept, and they were going renegade, and they couldn't do anything to stop them. The nukes didn't even stop them. The only thing that he said that worked, that they can control them, is to use the name Jesus Christ.
Now that's interesting you brought that up, because that's another whole ball of wax for me. I'm not quite sure I'm buying that yet.
Well, let's take a look at that for a second.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because you see, here's the interesting thing. You look at let's take out the dogma. Okay, let's take out the dogma. We're gonna just play a little exopolitics here, biblical exopolitics. In Ezekiel, the book of Ezekiel, we get this character which is talked about as the covering cherub of Eden. This is the cradle of creation, not civilization, creation. And when we look at our history, our evolved history, let's take the evolution out and let's stick in genetic engineering, because it would explain how all of a sudden back at the Cambrian period, life just exploded on this planet to the level that it's never been before. We have only had extinction level events since the Cambrian period. Now we also have to take a look at one other thing. Why did the church burn Bible readers at the stake for 1,000 years?
True.
And then why does academia discount the Bible? And why do people turn around and say, oh, the Bible's been changed, it's just a book of nice stories? You get all the media that jumps on the bandwagon. And in the last 100 years, people have given up the Bible. They've given up God. And we've gone from 100 years ago, everybody believed in the Bible. Almost everybody believed in God.
Well, that's true. I mean, people forget that even up until the 50s, there was a Bible in every hotel room, in every desk, in every nightstand.
And a lot of them there still are. But here's the thing, though. In 100 years, we gave up God and embraced aliens.
True.
Yeah,
that's what's happened.
And the Bible has become just a nonsense book. Wait a minute, no.
Well,
the Bible hasn't become a nonsense book. You see, what's happened is that religion has become nonsense.
Well, okay. I want to say that there's a whole consciousness movement out here, and I have never thrown away the Bible, but it sits right next to my Bhagavad Gita and my Be Here Now by Richard Alpert, Baba Ram Das, and it sits next to all my consciousness expansion books like The Holographic Mind by Michael Talbot. I mean, that's where my Bible goes, because that's what it is. It's a history of our consciousness and how we deal with the creator of the energy that is us and the universe. So
let's look at a simple mathematical fact. Okay? According to string theory, and M theory and superstring theory, it all carries out. In order for our three-dimensional universe to exist, there needs to be 7 other spatial planes to support it. However, those other 7 spatial planes do fine without our 3 physical dimensions, which would only indicate that more than likely there would be life that would exist in those other 7 physical planes, considering that the universe and the cosmos itself is conscious. The fact is, we are living within the very body of the Creator itself. That's a fact.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree with you on that. I've been saying that for years, that we are the living gods. We are creating everything around us at all times, and we are connecting with each other. And how I get people to understand this, Peter, is I say, close your eyes, plug your ears, and don't talk, and don't hear anything, do anything, or whatever, and just be in your mind in complete silence and figure out who's in there with you.
Uh-oh, that's a scary thought.
And what dimension you're in, because the reality is you can't see, you can't hear, you don't know what's going on around you. And if you're in a flotation tank, you're actually, your body can't respond to anything around it because it can't use the sensation of touch. So where are you?
Well, I'm going to tell you exactly where we are. You see, we are spiritual beings. We are at the soul and conscious level. We are interdimensionals. However, we are in a physical body, enjoying the physical realm. My near-death experience took the physical away from me. I had just gotten married. I had a baby. Well, I didn't have it personally. My wife had it. With my child.
You look like Yoda. I love that. Go ahead. I'm sorry. It's a private joke, folks.
and here I was. They're wheeling me down a hospital corridor, and I'm out of my body watching. Interesting. Everything was in color while I was in my body. When I left it, everything was in black and white, and I felt like I was physically being pulled further and further away from my body. And all I could think of is, no, that I can't be dying. I just started a new chapter in my life up, and I'm getting further and further away. And I'm past the hospital now. Now I'm somewhere else, another dimension. And so my consciousness turns to see where I'm being pulled to. And what my consciousness is, it's enveloped in a white cloudy material. I don't know, ectoplasm, something. And it's literally being pulled into the great white light. And I'm just observing. I have a very calm, peaceful feeling about me now. I'm not worried about anything else. I'm just curious about what I'm going to experience next. Well, all of a sudden, that feeling of being pulled stopped, and then it started pushing me away, and it pushed me right back into my body. And so here I am today. Now, you can talk to anyone who's had a near-death experience. Almost everyone has a different experience. And so it's my belief, my personal belief, that it's based on your life, what you believe. It's to make the transition a lot easier. But what it says in Genesis, the 9th chapter, the 5th verse, says, I shall ask back the soul from every living creature. From man I shall ask back his soul. And our soul is connected somehow into our blood. Don't ask me how, but it is. And that's why they do blood sacrifices. Jesus, real quick. Adam lost a perfect human body. Jesus, in being a perfect human zygote implanted in a human host woman, being born into a world such as ours only 2,000 years ago, got to experience what physical life was like for the humans. And then he gave his life up, shed that blood, repaid that ransom, laid a blood claim to the planet, and left. In Revelation 12, we have an interdimensional war. It says Michael and his angels battled against the great dragon and its angels, but it did not prevail. And so it was cast down to the earth. And it says, woe for the earth, because the devil has been cast down to you, having great anger, knowing he has a short amount of time. When you get to Revelation, the 19th chapter, it talks about the King of Kings and Lord of Lords returning to settle matters here on earth. And there's a judgment that takes place, a judgment of the nations and those who ruled the nations, not the people. It's also to remove the systems that have been set up by the Anunnaki, which have brought this world to a ruin. What is our future? We get our DNA restored. However, we have to make a conscious effort. We are life forms with free will. We have to get out of that beta fight and flight. Stop getting hung up in, Donald Trump will be a better president than some other moron out there.
Oh my God, please.
They're all morons.
Oh my
Come
God.
on. You're going to
They
vote
are.
for
I mean, what is, oh God, don't even get me started.
Yeah,
Hey, Peter, I have a question from you
Yeah.
from the chat room. I
Sure.
hope we can do this because we've only got about 8 minutes left in the show. So here's Sky33. She asked, what is Peter's thoughts on the Rh negative factor in blood?
You know, I'm going to plead pure ignorance here, and this is why, is that I've always observed the sanctity on blood. It was one of those things that was ingrained in me from childhood. I couldn't even tell you my own blood type.
Oh, okay.
And
So
I've had
you think-
more blood taken from me than I even care to think about.
Okay, so let me ask you this then. You said blood sacrifice was the way that Jesus claimed this planet. And you also said earlier that people have used the name of Jesus, and to be honest with you, I think it's not the name of Jesus. I think they could use any name of anybody that has been exalted in a universal consciousness.
I
Okay.
I couldn't actually confirm that one way or the other. The only name that I was told actually by somebody who used it long before I heard from the colonel. This was a personal experience of somebody that, interestingly enough, is the great grandniece of Tsar Nicholas of Russia.
Oh,
Uh,
interesting.
yeah, she had a Jewish woman having an attack by two demonic figures, shadow figures, as she called them, and they almost had their way with her. And in desperation, she yelled out the name Jesus Christ, and they left.
Right, right. Well, now I've heard of this
So,
happening, and
so
this is the thing they tell all the alien abductees. There's a whole crowd of people out there that have gone with this guy that used to be a MUFON director that swears that if everybody just calls the name of Jesus Christ, they'll put the demon aliens in their place, and they will never bother them again, and
well,
all this. And I'm
it's a little bit more intense than that. I can actually explain how it's done, but we don't have enough time. But here's the thing. We are all connected at the soul level. So it's up to us to make that connection to each other. And then it's interesting, when you look at the greatest commandment, Jesus said, you must love your God, Yahuwah, or Yahweh, or Jehovah, with your whole heart, soul, and mind. That covers the whole consciousness. And you must love your neighbor as you do yourself. Again, at the soul level. And it's making that connection that takes us out of that beta, brings us into the soul level in alpha, theta, and delta, where we now can understand the multiverse and how it works. Because guess what? When we're in theta and delta, we're not limited to the 3 dimensions. You have out-of-body experiences, alien abductions. That all happens in delta. I was in delta in a coma when I'll call it my guardian angel, came to me and said, come with me. And the next thing I knew, I was watching the birth of my youngest child in real time. I was in a coma.
Cool.
Yeah, I was in a coma in Westchester County Hospital, and I got to see the birth in real time about 75 miles away. When I came to some hours later, I don't know exactly how many hours, I don't know about, but my mom was standing over me, and first words out of my mouth were, Mom, make a phone call, the baby was made. I mean, the baby was born. The old woman had the most confused look on her face, but when I came to the next time, she was standing there saying, congratulations, you have a son. You see, I was in a coma. I got to see that. I got to see
Oh,
I've
absolutely.
experienced so many things that are beyond our 3-dimensional understanding, that my whole world has become a multiverse. Yet, interestingly enough, if I talk about this to my own mother, I can watch her eyes glaze over. I lose her. And so here's the thing. That's why we have Greys, reptilians. We have alien races from Sirius or from, who gives a damn what quadrant they tell us they're from. The fact is they're either genetically engineered or they're interdimensional, and more than likely, if they're with us here right now at this moment, they're either a guardian angel or they're part of the rebellion. And the rebellion is to control the future of mankind, the future of the creators of the future. Who are we really? We are the grandchildren of the creator himself or itself.
Exactly.
And we are endowed with creative powers ourselves. Where do we invoke those creative powers? In the alpha and in the theta. And in
Absolutely. Yep.
Beta's
That's
only
where I'm
reactive.
heading, Peter. I finally, it took me 5 years, but thank God it only took me 5 years to get there. I gotta say. And I have no scientific background. I have no training. I have nothing. I'm just an old hippie chick that's an artist, basically. And here I am. I'm 53 years old when I had my first major experience. And, I've been having experiences my whole life, but I had an experience in September of 2011 where I popped open a laptop and I had a thought, and it happened. It was like they were slapping me upside the head and said, we can read every thought and everything you do in any given moment, and you have the choice to let us control you or not control you. And boy, I'll tell you what, my whole life changed.
You have the choice. We all have the choice. Do not be intimidated. Go to your soul level.
Exactly.
And once we react at the soul level, they are powerless.
Exactly. And I have been through an amazing ride getting to this point at 57 years old. I'll be 58 in a month. And it's just an amazing ride getting here from September of 2011. It's
You want
just
to hear? You want to hear about a fantastic ride?
yeah, we got
Once we
1.5 minutes. Go.
Once we are fully restored to the point that we are supposed to be, we will be able to create our own wormholes and go surf the galaxy.
Oh my
Be able
God.
to
You mean
surf the
individually?
universe. Yes, because that is the future of the human race. Earth is only the beginning. In the beginning, God created the earth. You see,
Oh, wow.
the whole universe is already segmented into quadrants. Our expansion is guaranteed on the positive timeline. How would you like to have your own planet? And I'm saying this generally to the public, where every individual was your child, your grandchild, all your family. Imagine that.
Yeah.
There's enough galaxies to be populated that we can each have more than one. We can have several galaxies. Interesting.
I can't even imagine.
Think
There'd
of
be a
all the
bunch of
love.
little belly dancers running around.
But think of all the love that would eventually fill the physical universe, and we've got 1 trillion years to do it.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, there's
And
our future.
And I absolutely believe you now. If you'd said this to me 5 years ago, I would have laughed. I would have said, "Oh, this guy's really on something, man," But I absolutely believe you now. I know that we are that powerful. We're that conscious of a being. We were given a gift that is so powerful. And I just, oh my gosh, the show's over. Oh, I have to stop. Okay, folks.
Until the
it's been
next time.
wonderful ride with Peter Kling here tonight. Peter, thank you for being on the show. And everybody, thank you for being here. We'll see you next week on the California MUFON Radio Show. Have a great time. Good night, everybody.